Okay, calm down.
I'm particularly disappointed, I might mention to you, in watching my classmate, Janet Yellen. She and I got our PhDs together at Yale at the same time. Watching her go out there and say what she was taught and I was taught is very different from what's coming out of her hearty mouth at this point.
And what are you referring to in particular? What was she saying that you weren't taught?
What we were taught is that the Congress can raise taxes, that there might be many good reasons to do that rather than to keep borrowing and thereby damaging the credit, going through these absurd theaters of the ceiling.
Right. She's pretending that that's the only option.
Yeah, she knows what the real options are. And we were taught that, but to listen to her, the world will come to an end if we don't raise the ceiling. This is a misrepresentation, I'm being as polite as I know how, of what the actual options are, which I was taught in the same classroom with the same books and the same professors that she was. So I know she knows better, but her political persona is what's dominating her at this point, is the best guess I can make.
Biden has signaled that he'd be open to cuts. So what are your thoughts on that?
Only makes it even worse. He's not even willing to hold on to the demand to raise the ceiling. He's willing to compromise there too, the way he has on environmental issues in a dramatic way in recent weeks. And he's now apparently, if one can believe it, announcing that he will meet the Republicans halfway or something like that, cut some social programs in exchange for some increase in that's the kind of horse trading that they have done every other time. So I wouldn't be very surprised. And all you're seeing now is Janet Yellen, for example, yesterday mobilizing bankers to put pressure on the Republicans, and so that they can cut a little less social programs, a little more debt ceiling raise. It's pathetic. And by the way, the long-term cost of this is real. You keep borrowing money, it means more and more of the taxes you and I pay, and every American pays, will go to a government that's purely a collection agency. They're collecting our taxes and turning it over to the corporations and the rich who got away with lending to the government instead of paying taxes and now collect out. And there will come a time, and that's what those folks at the top fear, when the mass of Americans will say, we're not paying taxes that become nothing other than a slightly disguised wealth redistribution from the mass of taxpayers to those who lend to the government. And it's remarkable for me in just one more way to get the irony here. One of the largest creditors of the United States, lender to the U.S. government, is the People's Republic of China. It's neck and neck between Japan and China. Who is the biggest creditor? Well, if the Chinese own, as we know they do, in the neighborhood of $800 billion, just a little less than $1 trillion of U.S. government debt, it means that the United States government has to pay interest to the Chinese, just like it has to pay interest to everybody else who's lent to the government. Well, if you assume, let's say 4%, and it's at least that, well, it's about $1 trillion. That's $40 billion a year. And now watch what that means. Taxes collected from Americans by the federal government, which puts them in a nice package and ships them off to Beijing, where they can use it for their Chinese army or any other purpose that they see fit. And we, the taxpayer, are funding an ostensible competitor's economic well-being because of the craziness of what? Of not taxing our own corporations and the rich. The irony, the dishonesty of all of this should not escape anyone's notice.